I'm your host, Joshua Marshall, and we're joining you guys on a nice, beautiful weekend here in Edmonton, Alberta. We have two great guests. We might have a third one. We'll see how that goes, but it's been a bit of a good day here, and these guys have been on the ice with a lot of great players, professional players, and some junior players coming up. And our first guest, he's from Making Strides. We got Brian Shackel. Brian, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on. So, and we also have Kane Lafranchise. He is with Shyft Hockey. He also has a bunch of other titles that we're going to get into too. But Kane, how's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me on as well.
Nice. Perfect. Before we get into a bunch of the different topics, guys, I just wanted to get an introduction of, I know a lot of people probably in the city probably know you guys a lot more than maybe they know this podcast and whatnot. So we're just kind of beginning to piggyback off the success that you guys have been able to create, but engaging in some great conversations along the way. But we'll throw to you, Brian, first, and kind of your start. I know that you're not a part of other titles, but you do have a big name on the hockey circuit. Where did everything kind of start for you, and how did you get to where you got to today?
I would probably say I have a very different starting point than most guys in this industry or girls. I actually just played local minor hockey in small town Manitoba right up till I was 18, and then I decided to go to university. So I actually have a master's degree in sport biomechanics, and I have a kinesiology degree as well from the University of Manitoba. So I'm probably the most overeducated on-ice skating coach in the world.
Nice. That's awesome. And you do a great job with that as well. You got a great following around the city. Kane, we met the other day at a skate that you're doing with some pro players too. It's obviously the same day that I met Brian for the first time. With Brian and I have chatted through Instagram before, but it was nice to kind of meet you both on the same day. But I understand you wear some different titles besides being the runner of Shyft Hockey. Can you explain to our listeners what those are, and how did you get into hockey? How did you get to where you are today in terms of your growth of playing minor hockey, and then also giving back to the game that you do now?
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of start there. I was obviously grew up in the west end of Edmonton, so I was with White Mud West all the way through, and then eventually joined CAC on the club side. After I finished up U18 there, I went and joined the Saints in Spruce Grove. Played a couple seasons with the Saints right when they were fresh in Spruce Grove, just the year after. So I got some time there, and committed to the University of Alaska Anchorage. Dual scholarship there, business management and marketing. And then after I finished at the University of Alaska Anchorage, I went and played the East Coast a little bit, and then eventually went up to the American League, where I spent the last 5 years of my career. And when I retired in 2018. So since then I've been in hockey development. I always loved hockey. I enjoy teaching the game. As we'll probably get into a little bit, our philosophy there was Shyft, I joined an academy fresh out of retiring, and had a really nice setup there with Jason Stewart and Matt Tassoni, who's tried to join this call, but couldn't quite figure it out. But I was there for, an extended period of time, and I really enjoyed it. Really great experience. And then that's where I really got, on the side of player development, which I really enjoy now, and obviously why I'm ingrained in it so much. So once I left that academy, I now work with the Sherwood Park Kings Club. I'm director of player development. I work with all 13 teams in the summer, and even throughout the winter, we're running our Shyft programming. And I also do some video work with a lot of players as well. So we're kind of everywhere, bouncing in and out, but we wear a lot of hats, but it's all based around hockey.
Nice. Yeah. It's but obviously there are people who are like, why would you get two different companies on at the same time? But you guys also work together, and that's why we want to get you guys on. There's a passion that you guys bring together. It doesn't matter what the company or the name is. It's you guys both have the same vision, and you guys both do a lot of good for a lot of kids throughout the city, and also professional players too. So that's kind of why people would be like, well, why would you have two on? And that's kind of why, because what you guys have been able to create and guys able to do, it's been awesome. There's one thing I want to get into before we kind of jump in to everything. And I just want to know if you guys have had the same philosophy on this. I saw a video of Luke Shen the other day, and he talked about working with Adam Oates, and a lot of people that Adam Oates has worked with, they've changed their sticks to the same curve that he has. Now, we'll pose the same question to both you. Brian, will start first. All the kids that you've worked with, the players you worked with, is that something that has been something you guys have done too, and really working with the stick lie, the curve, everything to definitely get the best out of the player on that hockey skill end?
I would probably say, just in my experience, I'm kind of more foot focused, right? So I'm looking at the skating aspect. So I'm looking at profiles and sharpenings and probably adjusting that more so than the sticks specifically. Kane could probably discuss a little bit more. Obviously, you can kind of see with players get sticks, whether it's too whippy or, in that standpoint. But I would probably say for me, it's more just looking at players' feet. I generally try to get players away from an overly sharp hollow and more towards something a little bit more glide. Kind of that's my philosophy.
Okay. And there's a good question that we're going to get to with you at the next one, but Kane will ask you that question. When you're working with these players, the boys and girls, is that something you're seeing where there's a development, there's something that you're seeing that could help with the stick lie, the curve, flex, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think we don't go too much into that. I know that we've worked with a lot of kids that they've had issues maybe with their shot release, whether it's one-timer, sweep one-timer, even wrist shot. We suggested different things based on, like Brian said, the flex. The flex is a big thing. For me, I was always, the best part about my game was always my passing. So I tend to use a blade that kind of is great for passing backhand, forehand. So a lot of players have asked me what I use, have tried it themselves, have, some defensemen that I've worked with have switched to what I've used before too. But yeah, we haven't really gone too much into down the rabbit hole with that. We've just kind of made minor suggestions and tweets based on, the player's strength, how the shot release is, if they're frustrated or it's, they're looking for something different. We've had input, but I saw that same article or video you were talking about with the Olds guys too. And I'm sure that's something that's going to continue to evolve here because it seems like every kid is looking for that small little minor change that can give them a leg up. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Great way to kind of break that down. Brian, I know we were chatting yesterday over the phone. There's a way that you watch the game differently than mainly a lot of other people watch the game. Can you explain to listeners, when you're watching a junior hockey game, a minor hockey game and a professional hockey game, what kind of way are you watching the game? You kind of maybe tip your tips to your cap to that in terms of being the skills guy, our skating coach, but can you elaborate a little bit more and kind of what you're doing and how you're watching and are you writing things down to kind of help players with this, or use those tips?
Yeah. So when I'm watching a game, I start from the ground up and I just look at what players' feet are doing, how they're using their feet to manipulate, other players on the ice. The big catchphrase that everyone's using right now is deception, right? Everyone wants to be deceptive on the ice. But like, how are you creating your deception? What are you doing? What are the pro guys doing that allows them to be more deceptive? So I'm just watching for, like subtle slides and shaves and little stutter steps that they're doing with their feet. And then once I see that, I'm trying to incorporate that into what I would do is, my junior players all the way down to, U11. It really doesn't matter. For me, I run the same kind of philosophy from all the way up.
Yeah. And how has that been able to kind of move forward with some of the players too? Are you able to prolong careers? Are you able to really help in that aspect? Obviously it's part of your job, but have you had some good testimonies to come back to in terms of like where this has really changed something that you'd be able to see with a player? And it doesn't have to be an NHL player, it could be any player. Has there's been something in that aspect that you've been able to see in the change?
Yeah, I think honestly for me, one of the big things that I've started to do is just play around with the player's hollow. I know it sounds really simple, but I had a player that was in Met Hat when he was 19. He was a captain there, and he was on a half-inch sharpening, and he's like, oh, at the end of the game, I got nothing left. Like the last 10 minutes, the coach is like, I'm unplayable because I'm so tired. And I just convinced him to switch his hollow to 5/8 and 3/4, and now I think he's on an inch right now. And he feels like it. I mean, it sounds bad, but it feels like it's easier to skate. He's not working so hard out on the ice. He's just way more efficient. So that's kind of one thing that popped out to me.
So Kane, when you and Brian are working together, and obviously your business partner Matt, in all three of you guys on the ice in terms of it. So Brian's doing a great job at the skating side and can still do the skill side, but then you guys come in heavy on that skill side still too. Are there ways that you've been able to kind of see, starting with the skating and moving it over to some of the skill stuff in terms of, again, that word deception?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any foundation of any skill is rooted in footwork. At the end of the day, it's, all these kids they have to skate. So when we're working with Brian, or we have any other kind of, skating work we're doing, a little bit of a warm up that will lead into that skill that we want to bring full circle at the end of a skate. I think we've done a lot of, Brian and I will I'll use an example. We worked with those, an NHL defenseman recently in the summer, about a couple weeks ago, and we were just talking about, Brian, we wanted to work on deception and retrieval. So, he's leading into deceptive skating, using punch churns, riding an inside edge, quick churn. And then usually from that, you take that skating, and then I can incorporate it into, my retrieval station where I'm using pressure, game reads, something they're going to see in a game. So, we're being able to do that with Brian on our end has been awesome. It's almost seamless. And then players, like I said, we're setting up every skill with the skating or the warm up or whatever we're doing. So it's really nice. And the players get that flow through the skate.
So Brian, back to you on kind of that process. So one of the things I've seen the other day, and I know Luke Shen was talking about this, but there's a player in the Flames talking about it. He's a right shot defenseman that possibly play the left side this year. We'll see how it goes. But so he was just kind of asking me in terms of where the hardest thing that he thinks he's going to have this year is back pressure, coming back into the zone, retrieving that puck and getting that puck out. So is there ways that a player like that can be better with skating on that back pressure? Is there a way of kind of being elusive in that way to get away from putting yourself in a position to get hit and hit hard with that back pressure?
So, as a D-man on a retrieval, there's two ways to go about it. One, you either want lots of space, or two, you want no space. Because if that guy's got, a stick and a half length and you try to do any sort of deceptive footwork, he's not going to bite on. He's just going to paste you. So again, using your feet to kind of slow up to get the pressure on you. Now I can maybe spin off pressure and I can set myself up to come out one way or the other if I can manipulate what that pressure is doing. But if I get myself stuck in a position where I got no space or I got too much space, then I get myself in trouble. I'm sure Kane would probably attest to that, right? And he probably got pasted a few times in the AHL himself. I'm assuming
too many times. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to elaborate on that, Kane, and in that back pressure of how, because that seems to be a big thing in the way the game is growing and how fast the game is growing. It doesn't even need to be at the NHL level or the AHL level, and that pro side of things. It could be at the level of, club hockey, elite hockey, saying even Division 2, Division 3, minor league and minor hockey as well too.
Yeah, I think honestly, first touch skills like a retrieval are important for anybody. Forwards on a forward check if they beat a defenseman, but for defensemen, me having played the position and working with these D-men, it is the most important skill for them because it's a separator. If you're very good on first touch as a D-man and getting to pucks and being able to break the puck out, you're a highly coveted defenseman, and that those are the kind of defensemen that teams want, who can move the puck, who can transfer the puck north and go to offense. So, like the skating piece, the awareness of pressure, I think it's becoming more and more. Scanning's a big buzzword that everybody uses, but it's what are you looking for when we work with defensemen? Like, are you just noticing pressure? Or are you trying to identify, the play beyond pressure? Where's your outlet? And how spatial awareness, like Brian said, like how much space do you have? Where's the puck in relation to the wall? Like a retrieval it's always something different. In hockey, nothing is rare. It's rarely ever the same. So the more you work on those skills, the better at any level. I got defensemen that are U11, U13 that we're working on retrieval. Same thing, deceptive retrievals. How are you shaking a defender and beating F1 one-on-one, and creating an advantage for your team going the other way? So it's very important. And I think the skating, everything, the scanning, all of it plays into one, but they're always changing. So it's a really important skill that we focus on.
Yeah. And now these are skills that doesn't always have to be in the summertime. And the next question to both you guys, and we'll go to you, Kane, back on this one. What's the difference between development in season and development during season, and how you guys, as your programs, could utilize both aspects? Just because they work with you throughout the summer, that doesn't mean to stop. That can carry through the regular season and the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that difference, the understanding that in-season development and off-season, they're obviously, like you mentioned, they're both important, obviously, but they play different roles in a player's growth throughout the year. in season, obviously the focus is more on, you're maintaining skills, you're making small tweaks to your game, and you're building habits, obviously, that translate to the games. You're also working, like in Sherwood Park, for an example, when I'm working with teams, I'm trying to work with the group or in certain areas that we're trying to work on skills that help them in game situations within their system or tactically, right? So I'm always in communication with the coaches that, right? So in season's a little bit different there. If it's not private and it's group, it's all encompassing. What are we working on, the defensemen, forwards, etc. But so
Mhm.
the goal for that one is to keep sharp and obviously continue progressing without overloading. And then obviously off season is where you can really expand your game. It's where you can show slow things down, break things down, your mechanics. You can build the foundation for new skills like wall retrievals. How can you set that? You don't have that time in season a lot of the time. So we spend a significant amount of time on those skills in the off season. But then even like on Brian's side, I'm sure you'll talk about, but like improving your stride and working on puck handling, adding different things. So off season gives players that time and space to kind of push boundaries and try different things. While in season is about applying those tools and learning how to use them effectively whenever, within the game or the structure they're supposed to play. So both very important, just both very different too.
Yeah, there's different aspects of that for sure. Brian, in your terms of it, how would you, obviously, I'm sure you're going to agree a lot with Kane just said there, but what is ways that you would look at too? Because you can still improve the skating aspect throughout the regular season as well too. And how would you go about that if someone was to come to you, even being as a coach when you're on the ice with your own kids or other kids throughout the season too?
So from the skating standpoint, in season, I would probably tend to maybe agree a little bit, but also disagree in some capacity. So in season for me, I mean, it's all about your edge work. We're trying to work on these deceptive skills, but I think from a skating standpoint, it's kind of easier to kind of teach a new skill in season. It's really, really hard to change a skill in season. Like if somebody comes to me and they're like, my team needs to be better at skating, and they give me them for like every second Monday for 20 weeks. I'm like, well, you skate with me on Monday. We do a whole bunch of stride drills. Then you have a game Tuesday, and then you have a practice Wednesday. Then you have a game Thursday, and then you play again Sunday. And I see you again in 2 weeks. You've been on the ice 10 times since the last time we did that drill. And there's a 0% chance that players think about anything we did on that first day. So like if somebody wants to rebuild their stride, let's say, you got to hit it like every day hard. And that's where the summer, I think we can change technique in the summer. It's really hard to change technique in season for players. So I tend to kind of think, maybe I'm trying to teach jab steps or teach a new skill that they're maybe not doing versus changing an old habit or an old skill.
Is there a way of changing some strides that prevent injuries? Obviously, like a hip flexor, hip injuries. Is there something that you could see in a player where you're like, hey, that guy or that girl, like this, they would continue to skate this way, usually going to cause injuries in different aspects. Is there a way that you could see into defining that or helping that out to prevent
it's really difficult. I mean, skating is such an unnatural movement, right? Like I want you to move forward, but push 45 degrees out to the side. So typically for me, I think if players are wanting to decrease risk of injury, a lot of that's done off ice, right? Your hip mobility and your flexibility and this city of Edmonton has so many great facilities and gyms that guys can go and see, and there's so many options, but a lot of it is what are you doing off the ice to take care of your body that will allow you to get into that position you need to skate. Not everyone skates the same, right? There's no exact perfect stride. Like Connor McDavid skates way different than Nathan McKinnon. Are they both fast? Absolutely. Are they both great skaters? Absolutely. But they're two completely different skaters. So, I mean, it's a little bit, there's some very basic kind of things you have to see, but everyone has their own little kind of nuance on how they skate and how they move.
All right, so we'll move on to the next kind of segment of this, the third segment, and Kane, and get your thoughts and Brian's thoughts too. But and obviously very well said by both you guys in that last little segment there. But the difference between way we've seen off-season training work, because it seemed like years ago it was always drills, doing this, all this other, like you get on the ice for an hour, it's like a full scrimmage of drills. It's like you're not really working on these small area games, and we'll get into small area games at the end. But why has the game changed so much? And what's the why for you guys, and why is so passionate in all these great ways you guys can add different elements to the game when you guys are on the ice, moving the nets in different directions, different areas of the ice too?
Yeah, I think obviously compared to like 10, 15 years ago, like you were saying, or even, it's changed so much within the last 5. I just think the game now, it's just so much more skilled. Every player, or most players that we work with, like they can all puck handle. They all love watching the highlight reel goals. Like they all call it the Michie. They're, the Michigan, different things. Kids are trying different things. They're trying to be creative, but I think the game where it's really changed so much recently in the off season, why I kind of like got into this a little bit, was just helping kids understand the game a little bit more. I think, like summer training has taken off to a level that kids are in, and we talk all the time, Matt and I and Brian, and these kids in this camp, he goes to this camp, does some of this. I mean, it's always that fear of being left behind. If someone's not working kind of on, if you're not working on your skills, somebody else is, or doing this, doing the extra. So, I mean, it's great, obviously, for our industry because we're working with these kids, but it's also, I think we almost swung too far in some ways with a lot of it too. Like, I think there's been an over-reliance on some things, like using, devices or stationary objects, or kids. Even when I first got out of hockey and was working in player development, I feel like I got involved in that a little bit too, where it was just kind of doing drills to do drills and things that might look good for parents and things like that. But I wasn't really teaching anybody anything. So it was also trying to figure that out. As the game evolves as an instructor, like I need to evolve too. And then that's where I started really getting into research and watching patterns and high frequency events for players. What are players seeing in a game that's actually going to be able to help them? And then that's where Matt and I, like our biggest philosophy of Shyft is like, and that's why there's a why in Shyft, is just teaching the why. Like, why are you doing this? And it's obviously the how, the what, everything, but we were trying to remove the crutches before that we were kind of using, and that kind of getting caught in that a little bit. And we just want to create environments that look and, they feel like the game, like what kids are going to see. And, so I think that's, like I said, the game's creative. All these kids can puck handle great and they got that skill. But I think where we're really trying to change a little bit and keep up with the game is helping players. What are they doing off the puck? Spatial awareness, timing, moving into, space at the right time. So I think that stuff is starting to go trend more that direction, where hockey doesn't have to be complicated. I think we're trying to really simplify it. But I mean, like you said, I just going back and into that question, I got on a bit of a skill tangent there, but I just think the game is just, everyone's almost, they're trying to keep up with everybody else. Right. And I think it's just really important to focus on areas that you need to work on. And it is just, it's crazy how much these kids are on the ice right now. But like I said, it's good for us as long as we're all teaching the right things, right, and helping these kids.
Yeah. Brian, what is your why? And kind of that same question of what's the why? And you probably, I don't know where you stand out on, but there has been this big change from when, I used to go watch these skates with these pro guys, but you guys, not with, you guys just taken over. How many, I guess we'll get into that in a second. It's a different question, but your why, I guess we'll get to that.
Kind of funny. Like Kane talked about the idea of running drills. Actually, so I had a U9 camp last week. One of the dads came up to me, he's like, I don't need to put my U9 kid in a camp. If he's just going to put some pounds on the ice, I'm going to skate around him. I mean, the big thing that we do, I think, that separates us from a lot of people is it's about teaching, right? And everyone can put some pounds down the ice and run a drill. Like anybody can do it. Just put 20 pounds out there, turn around here, turn around there. But we want to actually put them in a position where they have to maybe make a read, right? It's not just a set up static environment. Like hockey's not static. It's moving, it's evolving. I have a phrase that I use that isn't really a phrase, but I'm trying to make it a phrase. So I always say players need to work on their peripheral awareness, which basically kind of takes everything that Kane just said, right? You talked about spatial awareness, talking about shoulder checking, we're talking about scanning, we're talking about where is everybody else, where are people moving? And then he also talked a little bit about patterns. Like for me, I teach skating, but I would say 90% of what I'm doing, I have a puck on a player's stick. I'm watching what am I seeing in a game? What are they working on? How can I translate that into something in a drill? For another example, I had a U15 player in my camp a couple weeks ago, really had trouble skating backwards. So, I mean, in a camp setting, lots of times we get into like this idea of it's like at 10 we do this, at 10:05 we do this, at 10:10 we do this. Whereas for us, I think Kane would probably agree, it's more we see a player with a restriction or a liability that we need to fix. We got to fix that before we can move too far ahead. Right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of progression based development. Start at 1 and get to 100, but you can't go 1 to 99. You got to build your way through all the steps, right?
But they all want to see it like Connor.
They do.
Right? They all want to see it right away.
Yeah. It's so interesting you guys say that, like that, because I think I've been out a few of your states, Brian, and I don't know, again, like it's I even so bad the one I was there and I didn't tag Kaner in it. That's so felt Raph on that.
It's all
so
good.
Apologize. Like, but no, what I think is cool is there is no pylons on the ice. There's no, fake kind of whatever. There's just like, because you guys are making it from what I'm getting from this, real life situations, because real life situations happen in a game. So and the second way you can do that is a skill in skating groups that you guys put on. So because you walk in the rink and there's a pylon here, there's a pylon here, there's all these different things here and there. There's a stick, like, so it's just interesting that you guys say that, because when as soon as you said it, I was like, you're right, because the skates I've gone to watch, it's not like you guys ever had those out there.
And then to touch it just quickly again, like that's the biggest. I think the biggest issue is that hockey, when I played younger, older, junior college, when I got into pro, hockey in essence is just problem solving. We're constantly solving problems over and over again. 1-on-2, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-2, like it's always solving some kind of problem. So when you get in these environments where it's static and, like Brian said, the pylons and everything, no one's solving a problem. It's just rinse and repeat. It's just copying, right? So I think it's so important. That's why we don't use the devices. We use, player pressure all the time. And but we're doing drills that they see often, right? Like they're not going to do something they see once every 50 games, or they'll, like going back to, I talked about the Michigan, like I'm not going to work on the Michigan because none of these kids are going to really do it. The defenseman's not going to go behind the net and do it Michigan. If he did, it'd be awesome. But we're working on realistic things, but it's also just like helping them solve problems, because if they get into a game and they don't know how to solve problems, or we haven't equipped them with the tools to do so, and then we've done a disservice to every kid on that ice and every family, in my opinion. And that's kind of why we're both passionate about it. We want to help them, right?
Yeah. It's like I'm like fired up from this, because it's like, I'm kind of like, I'm sitting there and I know we were talking off camera, but I'm just like, I was at a trial this past weekend, 2 days, and the parents are just like, I don't see a difference. Like, what did I just spend my money on this past year? And we're not going to bring up those companies, but it's like, well, in my opinion, these are the places you probably should have went to. So, because you're going to see, like a difference. Like it's a U15 AAA game that went on for a full game and there's no goals until later in the game. So it's just like, and I'm not trying to shoot shots at the parents. Like, I think those parents are probably questioning maybe some of the things too, but there's a lot of different options in this city, but you got to do your research and your development before you kind of sign up. Because if you want to move forward, I think that's the best way to do it. So if any of you parents listening, sorry, I'm just saying, like, I think we're listening to what we need to listen to in terms of getting that right research, that right development out in the aspect of what you guys have been able to do.
I always tell players too, like you need to understand why you're doing something. Yeah. Like if you don't understand why you're doing it, there's no point in doing it. Because at the end of the day, if you practice and you can't translate that into a game at some point in time in your life, it's a completely useless skill. Yeah. So I would say, like, you got to see it, you got to feel it, you got to understand it. Once you have all three of those things figured out, then it just kind of comes together. Right. Yeah. But if you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't understand it, what's the point doing it?
Yeah. You got that right. Very well said. So you guys have been working obviously with a lot of minor hockey players throughout the city, and you guys have, how many years has it been since you guys have worked with the pro guys here in terms of, because it seems like even this past year, the years before, like you guys done your own D camps. Like it's like the other day I was out, it was all NHL defensemen, AHL defensemen. Like when did that kind of start? And when did you guys start working with this group before? I guess maybe ask you, Brian, and then follow up by Kenyon.
So like I would say probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we kind of were like, we've known each other for a very long time. I
Yeah.
worked together with them when they were at NEX with Jason Stewart as well. Like we've probably I've known Matt for a little bit longer than Kane, obviously, because he retired in 2018. But we both kind of had our own little pocket group of pro guys, and the pro guys just want to skate with the best pro guys, right? They kind of all want to be together. So we were like, well, this doesn't make sense to have two separate camps. We brought them all together. 2 years ago, I think we started that.
2 years,
maybe three,
yeah.
2 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
And then this last year we decided like players need to work on position specific stuff. So we started heavy in the start of the summer. We went like 2 forward specific days, 2 D specific days, and then, a combined games day or something at the end because everyone loves playing games. And then we kind of slowly transitioned to a little bit more group stuff so we could get more game like, prep for heading to camp, right? But the group seemed to, especially the D-men loved the position specific stuff because most drills in a camp are designed for forwards.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of the time, right? Very rarely do people pull out and identify just specific D stuff. That's something I do in all my camps. Like if I have 5 D and 7 forwards in my group of 12, I'll do D forward splits and work that way right into the camp. And I just feel like it just translates so much better for them, and they're going to get so much more out of the camp than just running through like, the standard everyday drills. So,
yeah. Kane, and you too, like obviously it's been a few years now that you guys have branched together, but so is it pretty much like Monday? It's like, how does it work through a Monday to Friday work week or throughout the week? For you guys as a group, can you maybe explain to our listeners on that?
Yeah. Obviously, Brian touched on obviously how we got this all together. And, but yeah, he mentioned too, we did a little bit of the position specific stuff last year. And then even just asking all the players, that's the number one need they wanted, is just working on position specific. And like he said, the D, they obviously wanted that the most, but even the forwards are just like, yeah, that'd be great. We can work on different things that, we don't usually have time to work on a game. Like we're doing face-offs at the end of some skates and working on things like that too. So, but yeah, Monday we try to keep the same schedule, but you'd have your Monday, Wednesday would be for the defensemen. Sometimes that would flip on the weeks, but they would just flip in terms of 4D group. And then Tuesday, Thursday, you have your forwards together. And then they would do their games day, like Brian said. And then when we knock down one of those position specific days, they would just do a group skate, which would be, we would just work on something together that both forward and D men would see often in a game, that you can rim retrievals, first touch, like we were talking about, puck recoveries, or even just like blending them together, forwards and D men shooting, working on tips and deflections for both. How to D men, shooting with a forward that's used to being in that area, not just another D man standing in front trying to work on their hand-eye, but a forward that's actually going to be in that area often, and then they get to work on tips and D-men get to work on shooting. So it's been a really nice blend, but the biggest thing for Matt and I is we like working with Brian because we just like working with good people, similar mindset. And I think a lot of people in our industry could probably, should be more open to that, working together, because I think your way is not the only way. And I think it's important to work with good people. So we found a really good niche here, and, we argue a little bit, obviously, but that's just because
you're passionate.
Just someone who's opinionated, but no, it's good. Like all 3 of us work great together. So it just makes it easy. And we also just love building relationships with those players. Like all those pro guys, they trust us, and we like involving them in what they want to work on too.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's afraid that if you join in with somebody, they're going to take your players. But I mean, if you're good at what you do, the players want you there.
Yep.
Correct.
That's the thing. Like I could join up with any company, but if the players are happy with what they're getting, they don't need to go somewhere else. So for us, we found that just, pairing up, we work really well off each other. Like you said, I can intro some of the skating stuff in the first part of the session, and then we just translate that directly into how the rest of the skate goes. Mm-hmm. So we just see that really good vibe together. And we said most of the arguments are off ice, usually not on ice. So
no,
keep it behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to get a documentary of that maybe one day. So that'll be the way we get to Sony back on this podcast. They're on this podcast. So we'll do an Amazon. We'll do an Amazon or a Netflix series. So of that. But kind of something cool too. Obviously, small area games are all fun, but again, I know some of the guys have been able to get onto your guys' ice surface, and some of the pro guys that we had built relationships with, and they obviously talk highly about what you guys were able to do. I'm kicking myself because we just had Michael Benning on, and there's like 3 questions that I didn't get in, but him and I were spitballing about something else, and so lost track of time. And it was but obviously the next time we get someone on, and I think we're about to get someone on that's been in part of your guys' group, it's something I want to highlight and get the testimony from the player too, because I know talking to them, they talk very highly of what you guys have been able to do, and getting that high pace up and getting them ready for the season that is ahead. How great has it been able to work with minor hockey players, Brian and Kane too? And we'll go back to you, Brian, first. And, it's not just NHL players, it's just not just pro players, but seeing the growth of minor hockey throughout the city and this province, and how I'm helping these guys get to that next level.
I mean, minor hockey, it's super rewarding, right? Because you start with a player that has a very rare foundation. You can just, the growth is crazy. Whereas when you work with a pro guy, you're incrementally making these like 0.01% improvements is what you're trying to get from them. But you take a player that just, maybe a U9 or a U11 kid that comes to you and he's like, I'm not a great skater. And then they do a week or two with you and they're like, I'm actually seeing improvement. I'm like, it's repetition. I mean, sometimes I get a little bit, probably guilty of running the same drills with the same players over and over again. But like I said, you can't translate that to the next progression if you can't do the first progression.
Yes.
So I think minor hockey is super rewarding from my standpoint.
Yeah. Kane, you too? Do you feel that same feeling?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the main reason why we do what we do. I think it's anytime you see those improvements from players, or you even have a parent that'll reach out to you and just say, hey, you guys were working on this all summer or in a D camp or something like that, and he's breaking the puck out like crazy. He's hitting the tape, and he's moving the puck really well. Or even just my kid picks up pucks on the wall all the time now. Like things like that where you're having an impact, a positive impact on their game, and they're using what you've worked on for success. Like, because at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do, set all these kids up for success. So I think it's really rewarding working with these kids, and you see those little improvements like Brian said, and when they're younger, you can obviously, they're massive improvements that you can make. And I think it's obviously, it's great being able to be a part of that, because these kids, like, if you're doing the right thing and helping them out, they're always going to come back and see you, and we always get excited. Those kids coming back for another summer, it's very rewarding.
Yeah,
I think that's probably something too for us. Like for me, anyways, I feel like when I run a camp, I almost have the same group of kids come back the following year. Like you get a really good buyback. It's not like you're getting a whole new set of 12 every summer. Like my groups are all real small, so I do 12 players in every group. So for me, I'm probably getting 8 to 10 of the same players back the following year in that same group. Even more in some cases. Like I think my junior group's been like the same guys for 5 years. Like they just, you want them to come back, and then you're not starting, at 0, you're already at 50. Or we can just do so much more when you get that repetitiveness with the same players.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think it's the way the game is growing. Obviously, you guys touched on it. Just it's a lot of the skill thing, and you're not seeing a lot of the fighting isn't really there anymore. Is at the pro level. And I was listening to Spit Chickwitz the other day, and Ed Cloud Cutterbuck on. It was a really good interview, and at the end of it, Biz was like, "There's only one Connor McDavid. Everyone wants to be," and I know you touched on it earlier, Kane, and just being like, everyone wants to be Connor McDavid, but you could still make a good hardest living in the National Hockey League being a Cal Clutterbuck. We've made, every team needs a Cal Clutterbuck is the point, right? Well, there's the Connor McDavids, yes, but everyone can, once you can find that role on a team, your team is going to be a lot better. And as you identifying it as the player, I think that's the passion and what you guys have been able to put in over the years, because it's, it started when you guys played to where you guys are at now. So, is there anything else you guys want to? Yeah,
I think you nailed it there, Europe, when you said when the player has to identify who they are as a player, right? Like, it's great. It's great to want to be Connor McDavid, but obviously you can't. But if you don't know who you are, what you are, hockey's really hard.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. It's it's just something I've been able to kind of see, and I only bring that up. It's like we've been very fortunate, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to go down to Calgary and have a media pass. But I always found it interesting to always bring up the third and fourth line guys, or the, you know, the fifth, sixth, seventh defenseman, and shining a light on something they did in the game and asking that in a post press conference, because I just feel like maybe we don't hear that a lot throughout the hockey season. But I think a lot of the reason why I'm doing it is because those guys are working and honing the crafts with people like you guys, so they get recognized in a game. So it kind of starts with you guys, and then they want to be rewarded. Like when they do something nice in a game, they want to be able to hear it. And we've had a few testimonies of that, but it's just like, you're always going to interview or ask questions for the top six guy or the first, you know, goalie and stuff like that. But like, again, it goes back to what's your role? How can you do your role the best possible way? Because you're going to be the best player. So of that role. So, you know, it does, and every team we all see in hockey in the women's game is growing. Like I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Just two more. We'll get your thoughts on the women's game, because I seen that you guys are working with a lot of female players too, and that progression of the game. And then I'll finish up on small area games. So Brian, like, where's your thought process on the growth of women's hockey and how that's been able to grow over these years?
I think it's really fantastic. I have two daughters, so I guess I get a bit of a biased opinion, but it's nice for those players. You know, 5 years ago, the end goal was a Division I scholarship, and then it's like, and then what? Right now, what do I do? Whereas now they have a place, like they have a spot that they can continue to go, and they can play till they're, you know, in their 40s if they want to. Whereas I would say 5 years ago, it was pretty much 24, 25. Most of them were transitioning into like a super high-end women's hockey league for shitty, right? Like there's no end game. Whereas now they have a spot to go, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Kane, I'm sure you probably feel the same way, but
yeah, I mean, the growth in the women's game, it's obviously, it's incredible to watch. It's great for everyone that now has, you know, that goal of playing professionally and beyond the scholarship and everything. And we've seen it in our, you know, I think in the hard part on the development side is, even when I first got out of it, it's almost like the female side was forgotten about. There wasn't really camps that were, you know, involving them too much. There always like seemed to be an afterthought. But I love like working with our females, and, you know, the group size, it gets bigger every year. The girls come back, they're competitive, we have fun, far more coachable than the boys side for the most part, which is nice. But they are, no, it's great. And I think it's, now that they have that aspiration of playing pro, I think it's fantastic. And I think you're going to see more of a uptick in female registrations, and a lot of these girls kind of sticking it out as far as they can, because now there's something like that down the road, which is great for all those athletes.
Yeah. All right. So last one before we get you guys out of here. It's a staple on our podcast. We always talk about the small area games. It's something I pretty much ask every guest that's a coach or a player how great they are. But Kane, your thoughts on why you love these small area games and what you guys are able to do, and moving the nets in different places throughout that 85 by 200 ice surface.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like small area games, I mean, it's a great teacher. I mean, it's depending on how you do it too. Obviously there's a lot of the 3-on-3 cross ice and the standard, but I love that. I don't love that a lot of the younger groups are trying to go to full ice very early. I think there's something to be said about those small area games, or the cross ice games, where kids get more puck touches. They have pressure on them more frequently. They have to problem solve. But small area games can be a great teacher, obviously used correctly. And what we like to do with a lot of our games is, our game at the end of every session will kind of be the skill that we set out from the beginning. So if we're working on rim collection, our small area game, or our game that we're going to do, will involve the wall as much as possible, to see how players make plays off that, you know, the rim collection. So we try and tweak with it a little bit here and there. We try not to move the nets too much, but some of these kids, they love their neutral zone transition game and these small areas. So obviously you got to play to the crowd sometimes, but I love using small area games. I love having, you know, some teaching component to it, where they have to do some, or constraint maybe on the game. You can't go in a certain area. I think that's where you really see kids, you know, problem solving and trying to understand the game through success or even failure. I think it's a great teacher, like I said, and we'll continue to use them always throughout the summer and throughout the entire year in our development.
And then Brian, to you, your thoughts.
I'd like same idea. I mean, the constraints is awesome when you put them on a small area games. You actually force players to, make reads, make decisions. That they typically went in like a full ice 3-on-3 that it's super fun. You could just skate really fast and score some goals, but it's not super game like. So that's, I think, the biggest thing. The small area games kind of puts you in a position where you're making hockey plays, which at the end of the day, you got to be able to make hockey plays. I also love watching the small area games because we've seen it a few times this summer. We're working on something, and then you see it happen in a game. Next thing you know, the puck's in the back of the net, and you're like, "Hey, that's why we did that, right?" Like, it's no different. Like if a parent sends you an email, they're like, or a text, and they're like, "Hey, so and so did this in a game. I will send you the video," and it's exactly what you were working on during the summer. You're like, "Oh, this is awesome. Like that's what you want to see. Like that practice to game transfer idea, right?"
Feels like too, it's like the best way to end the practice because it leaves in a positive note with such a good positivity part to it where everyone feels like they got something out of it. So that's kind of what I saw. Is not that I've coached a lot, but this small time I've been able to coach, I think that's kind of a good way. We're obviously going to put your guys' best ways to reach you guys in our show notes, but Brian, the best way for our fans and listeners, how can they reach you and where can they follow you? Where's your best content?
The best place to follow me is at Making Strides on Instagram. That's where I kind of post most of my information, most of my fairly active on there. Try to be as active as I can. So that's probably the best spot to go. I also have a website, www.makingstrides.com, but it's basically just my summer camp schedule, and that's pretty much all they put up there. It's kind of very basic. Or obviously just reach out through my website. It works as well though.
And Kaner, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and Matt as well too?
Yeah, I like Brian too for Instagram. We're at Shyft Player Dev. You can reach us there via message or also our email info@shyfthockey.com. And we actually have a new website that's getting made right now. We'll actually make our communication a lot more seamless. So if parents have inquiries about small area groups, different winter, summer programming, that's where we have all our camps as well. They can find us there.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you guys joining us on a nice hot afternoon here in Alberta. We don't get too many of them, so the 45 minutes plus 50 here that we've got to spend was a pleasure, and definitely looking at having you guys on again, and maybe doing kind of some different kind of collaborations or something in any way to support you guys. Just continue to keep doing what you guys are doing. It's obviously great, and continued success from our end over to you guys. So thank you.